Okay, before we have our quiet time, let's all get on the same page. If you're in the Sparkly book, it's page 231. And it's the second full paragraph. If you're in the second edition, it's page 192, paragraph 12. If you're in the first edition, it's page 178, the second paragraph. And if you're in the JCIM, it's page 96, third paragraph from the bottom. Okay, let's take a few moments to be quiet together. Okay. Good evening. And welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet. Don't think for a minute that it's always your family or your friends or your acquaintances who are the ones who stubbornly resist accepting the truth. Who stubbornly hold on to their already established concepts and who fight for their right to be ill or fight for their right to be distressed. I say this because it's very easy as you learn more, as light bulbs go on and you see things in a new way and you begin to behave in a new way and your experience improves. It's very easy for you to want your family and your friends to have this experience as well. And so when you see them distressed and you know they don't need to be, or you see them ill and you know they don't need to be, you want to do something about it. And you share with them what you've learned. And maybe they laugh at you, or maybe they poo-poo it. But one way or another, they don't accept it, and their life doesn't change. Correction doesn't occur. And you say, their unwillingness to listen is forcing me to have to watch them suffer. And that causes me great heartache. That causes me anguish. And really at the bottom line, what your ego is doing there is saying to you, they are showing you that truth is powerless. They are showing you that you are powerless. In other words, they're showing you that you must just suffer, watching them suffer, deteriorate, and die. And this causes the warrior in you to get up on its haunches and take hold of them by the shoulders and shake some sense into their head as though you could. And at the bottom line, all the warrior is trying to do is to make them change so that you will be relieved of having to watch them take a path that constitutes suffering and deterioration and death. You act boldly to relieve yourself, to make them stop making you hurt. You say, boy, if that isn't stubborn will, I don't know what it is. They are so GD stubborn. It pisses me off. It makes me so angry to see how headstrong they are. And it really pisses me off that I can see the answer and I can share it with them and they refuse to accept it. They insist upon the path they're on. They are determined to continue forward even though they want to fill my ears with the distress of it all that they're experiencing. Now here's where the practicality of it all comes in. Here's where the black and whiteness of it comes in. Each of you is just as stubborn as they are, except that you're more comfortable with your determined path than you are with theirs. We've been slowly moving through the course. And ultimately you will find that there were umpteen times over the past 2.5 years in which you could have gotten it, because the best is not saved for last. The best has been conveyed on every page, every time we've met. So what's the value of this realization? The value of it is the value of it lies in the realization that no one, not your friends, not your parents, not your children, not your acquaintances, no one, not even you, will see the truth until each one gives permission. That means that you personally have no power to force anyone to accept their good. But you do hold the key to your awakening, because you are the one who can give yourself permission to let God in. No one else can give that permission for you. And here's the interesting thing. When you do that, when you say, Father, thy will, not mine, be done. I'm willing to abandon the exercise of my will and the authority that I think it ought to have. I'm willing to abandon that. Maybe not 100% of the time, maybe not even totally at this moment, but I am willing to soften my authoritative stance enough to hear your voice, enough to let myself feel the fullness of being, that it's my birthright to be experiencing, because you are my source and you are withholding nothing of what you are from me. And when you do that, I mean when you really do it, you will feel yourself infilled. And as I've said before, the infilling of it, the experience of love that you feel yourself embraced by and consumed with, will give you new eyes with which to see your parents, your family, your friends, your acquaintances. That doesn't originate with their behavior or their beliefs, but originates with a clarity that you find yourself imbued with because you have given up your stubbornness, at least for that moment. And then you will be inspired to say or do or act in a certain way with your friends or family or acquaintances. But it won't give you power to change them against their will. The fullness of the gift you share with them by speaking from the infilling may just plant seeds which they will wait to water and harvest. But you will know that you have been with them from a place of wholeness, one in which your purpose has been fulfilled or is being fulfilled. And whether the, quote, response from others that you're sharing this with is immediate or not, will make no statement to you about your effectiveness. It's so easy to think that learning the truth is a means of getting power from a new level, which is exactly what the warrior mentality would look for. That you operate in a warrior mentality is a given, even though we haven't talked about it up until just a month or so ago. How many of you have seen War of the Worlds? And of those who have seen it, for how many did a red light go on? Did a red flag go up? Because in the opening and closing moments of the film, the Big Bang Theory and evolution was presented. It was an incredible teaching tool, this film was, because of its dynamic, its impact, and the number of people it will reach. And they will watch it and they will say, yes, the aliens, quote, had not earned the right to live on this planet. And thus, they were destroyed by a microorganism against which they had no immunity. How many listened to that and no red flag went up at all? No recognition that here the warrior mentality, the conflict-ridden context of existence was being reinforced. Inviting strengthened mutual agreement about the human condition. If no flags went up, if no recognition that this was exactly the opposite of what we've been talking about occurred, you watched it in the warrior mentality that you accept and employ. Yes, you employ it. If you, whatever you accept, you employ in coping with your world. If red flags didn't go up, if an alert did not occur, even the most minor recognition that, wow, this is exactly the opposite of what Raj has been talking about, you demonstrated your stubborn willingness to not embrace the truth that we've been talking about. And you demonstrated your stubbornness, which means your practice of inertia, your practice of being slow to lean out of the rut, to your lack of enthusiasm for seeing differently. That's stubborn will. You say, God, I was just watching a movie, and you're telling me I was in there being willful? Don't be ridiculous. But wait a minute. You don't just exist in the context of a movie or the context of a single event in your week or your day. You exist in the context of the frame of mind you are employing. You live in the context of the way in which you are using your mind. Now, last week we ended up by my inviting you to ask for correction. In other words, don't just move along in your stupid rest. Don't just move along in your ignorance, the status quo, the level of comfort you've reached while not yet being awake. If you're not experiencing the divinity of existence, if anything you see is not registering with you as awesome, then you are stubbornly insisting on not seeing that. You are still stubbornly insisting upon your staying right in your orphanhood, your wanting to be able to authorize instead of God. And so, yes, by not seeing more than what was being presented, you were being willful. You were continuing the willful act of saying, but Father, I'd rather see it myself. I'd rather see it my way. And that's the habit we're breaking. That's the habit I'm encouraging you to break. So let's be alert. And let's not just accept the status quo. And let's take a moment every now and then, or even more frequently, to say, Father, what's the more of what's going on here than what I'm seeing? What's the more that you're being than what I'm seeing? I'm willing to abandon my definition to have the rare experience of seeing it and experiencing it the way you're being it. Each of you is coping with being an orphan in very definite, well-established ways. Just as your friends and family and acquaintances are dealing with and coping with their lives in very specific ways. And you are not a whole lot more amenable to changing your ways than they are. Now that can be taken as a criticism, and you can all feel really bad about it if you want. But that's part of the warrior game too. And you know what? I'm not going to try to stop you. Feel bad if you want. When there's no payoff for feeling bad, when everyone around you doesn't jump up and try to argue you out of it, what happens? There's no payoff. But more than that, what happens is that you experience suddenly being alone, lonely, which is a direct experience, an unclouded experience of the isolation you claimed for yourself when you said, Father, I'd rather do it my way. Father, I would rather provide the definition of this, that, and the other thing. That was a step into isolation. So, I'm not going to tell you not to feel bad. I will say to you that what I've shared shouldn't make you feel bad, because it's very practical information which, because it is so clearly put, you, through the use of intelligence, can choose to either continue employing or stop employing, and your choice will clearly be yours to you. So that when you really become tired of discomfort, you will know that the decision was yours, and therefore the power is yours to abandon that path. Of course, this brings up another point. You say to me, does that mean I should just let my parents die? Does that mean I should just let my children continue to kill themselves with drugs? Does this mean I should let people who are making unwise choices do it without arguing with them? Well, the answer is yes. Because you've got to credit them with as much intelligence as you credit yourself. What do I mean by that? I mean that you've got to acknowledge that they are the Christ, they are the ultimate, using their mind poorly. But they are still doing it with purpose and resolve and commitment. 3 elements of sane being used unwisely. And they will use those 3 capacities wisely only when it serves them to do it. Not when it serves you for them to do it. You know what? The minute you start treating another as though they have fundamental divine capacities that they are using on purpose, and you're not about to argue them out of the poor use of their mind that they're putting their mind to, as I said, there won't be the payoff for them. You will be crediting them with the fact that they are very skillfully, and I mean that truly, they are very skillfully, with great adeptness, configuring and conforming their lives to be exactly the way they want it to be and exactly the way they know it is necessary for it to be for them. Therefore, they are in ultimate terms completely safe. And when you no longer provide resistance for them to kick against, the warrior in them will have lost a job. And it will put them in a position of having to decide to use their God-given capacities in a different way. How slowly are you getting the meaning of the Course? 2.5 years could be considered slow. That is, if one is judging, which I'm not. You're getting it as fast as you're willing to get it. Are you doing poorly because it's however slow it is? Only if you're willing to get into judgment and evaluation.